The Iranians have been antagonizing U.S. warships in the Persian Gulf. Is this an act of war or missed opportunity for target practice by the U.S. Navy? Hi folks, and welcome back to the Storm and Cellar. Ever since the Iranian Revolution, which overthrew the Shah in 1979 and instilled the Ayatollah Khomeini as supreme leader, Iran has been a pain in the butt to the rest of the world. One point of contention has been the Strait of Hormuz, which is about 90 nautical miles long and 21 to 52 nautical miles wide and separates the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. Now, the importance of these waterways is that approximately 20% of the world's oil, or 21 to 25 million barrels of oil a day, pass through the strait. The U.S. has claimed that Iran has either boarded or harassed nearly 20 internationally flagged ships in the region over the past 2 years. For years, because of the Iranian Navy harassment and even the boarding of oil tankers, it's required the U.S. to reflag numerous foreign ships to ensure safe passage. So just imagine, what would happen if the Iranians control the flow of oil coming out of the Persian Gulf? World economic collapse, perhaps, or maybe trigger World War III? Because the U.S. gets approximately 7% of its oil from Saudi Arabia and 11% from the OPEC countries, it's important under the current administration to secure the oil traversing the Strait of Hormuz. So here we are again in the Strait of Hormuz, where the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, manning guns on dozens of Iranian Navy speedboats, are harassing the U.S. warships. Those ships are the USS Baton, an amphibious assault ship, and the USS Carter Hall, an LSD. And each of them are carrying 4,000 sailors on board. The speedboats were manned with armed soldiers from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and came within inches of these ships, to include a U.S. Coast Guard cutter, while drones also harassed the ships and even managed to take a few pretty good pictures right above the ships for Iranian propaganda. Now, in an effort to have a show of force, it's reported the U.S. administration has redeployed additional F-16 and F-35 fighter jets to the Gulf region, along with 4,000 soldiers and Marines in response to Iran's threats of seizing commercial ships in the region. Despite the July Iranian seizure of an oil tanker in international waters near Saudi Arabia, the U.S. Navy spokesperson said the ship was possibly smuggling and decided not to do anything about it. However, days before this, the Iranians opened fire on a commercial tanker near the coast of Oman. U.S. Central Command sent the destroyer USS McFall to assist with a distress call from a Bahamian-flagged oil tanker, and prior to McFall's arrival, Iranians fired multiple rounds from both small arms and machine guns. Several rounds hit the ship's hull near the crew's quarters. The Iranian Navy boat left the scene as soon as the McFall ship arrived. So, as a result, the U.S. and the Arab League of 24 countries in the Middle East appeared, mind you, to condemn Iran's actions in the important waterway and stating, "We resolve to increase our commitment to pursue collective efforts to address threats to the security of vessels traveling through the region's waterways that are critical to international trade and the global economy." Now, I find this a bit ironic considering the recent thawing of Saudi-Iranian relations led by the communist Chinese. Now, here is where it gets a little bit confusing. As we know, the Biden administration has been adamant about restarting the Iranian nuclear deal. However, a few things happen that makes absolutely no sense to me and makes the U.S.-Iranian foreign policy confusing at best. One, recently the U.S., in an effort to sanction Iranian oil, boarded an Iranian oil tanker flagged with the Marshall Islands flag and confiscated the ship along with its 800,000 barrels of oil worth over $56 million and took it off the coast of Texas, which they don't know what to do with it now because no one wants to mess with Iran. Two, the military buildup in the Persian Gulf appears just to be a show, and that's about all. Three, even though the U.S. flew billions of dollars to Iran in the middle of the night on pallets to solidify the nuclear deal, the Iranians have giving the U.S. basically the middle finger at every turn. Now, my recommendation: freedom of navigation on the sea is imperative for world trade, and short of war, all countries should be afforded that respect. However, maritime safety is imperative, and we're not seeing that in the Gulf right now. After a few shots over the bow of the speedboats, if they continued to run near the warships, I'd sink them all. The captains of those ships have no idea what's on or in those boats that could cause damage to their ships. Remember, in 2002, when al-Qaeda terrorists using a very small boat with C-4 on board rammed the missile destroyer USS Cole while docked in Aden, Yemen, the explosion blew a 40 by 60 foot hole in the hull, which killed 17 sailors and wounded 37. On the political side, Iran, Russia, and China continue to build a huge Axis powers. In August, Iran's Navy showed off its new Qadr cruise missile system and the Fath ballistic missile, which has a range of 372 miles. The Persian Gulf is getting more dangerous all the time. The Iranians have to understand, if you mess with the bull, you get the horns. So what do you guys think? Is U.S. policy with Iran confusing? Does the U.S. need to be there, or is this a Gulf state's responsibility? Or should the speedboats be blown out of the water? Leave your comments down below. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends and enemies. So until next time, make sure all your takeoff and landings equal.